Our banding program occurs one time per week. Typically that's Fridays, and we have to be out here an hour before sunrise. So nets and traps are open as soon as the sun comes up, and then the clock is ticking for 4 hours after that. Also, if there's any sort of inclement weather, high winds today, it's about 10 o'clock right now, and we would probably be winding down, but the winds are a little too strong for us to safely band and capture individuals. So yeah, if it's really cold or really hot or really windy or it's raining, then we won't do it. We'll cut things short. This is a mist net for catching birds. It's one of the two methods that we use to capture individuals when we're banding. Very simple device. Takes a little time to set up, but it's basically two poles and then some net in between that has basically some little pockets to catch bird. Basically, the bird flies in and gets caught in this little pocket there, and then basically can't get out. And then we can reach in and grab it, pull it out. So this is a mist net. We have typically around 6 of these set up for each of the banding days. This is one of the other devices that we use to capture birds. This is called a Potter trap, and it's pretty similar to the Sherman traps that we use for quarterly beach monitoring. Has two different kind of trap parts. Typically, a lot of our traps are back to back, so there's openings on either end. This one is like a little garage, but it has kind of a similar setup. So there's a little treadle back here that props the door open, and then when a bird comes in, it pushes that and the door falls down and the bird can't get out. So then you have to go in, grab the bird, open it back up, and you bag it. And we, at each of our sites, we have about 4 to 5 of these Potter traps. These are really the best capture methods for any of the ground foraging birds. So species like sparrows, golden crown sparrows, white crown sparrows, towhees, those kind of species. They're the ones you typically won't catch in a net, or not as common. You'll catch them foraging on the ground and going after these seeds that we've baited the traps with.
Once we catch a bird in a net or a trap, during our 20-minute net checks, we bring them back to the banding table, and on the table are 2 of these setups. So here are all the tools that we need to properly take measurements on the bird, band the bird, and release the bird. So I'm going to go through each of these tools and how we use them and why we would be taking those measurements. Okay, pretend that we caught this golden crown sparrow in one of our nets or traps. These are often found in traps on the ground because they are ground feeding birds. So if we did catch this, we'd want to bring it back to the table. And first thing you always want to do when you're bird banding is be 100% about your identification. So most people in Santa Cruz would be 100% sure that this is a golden crown sparrow. They have this gold on their head. This one's not too vibrant, but they can get really vibrant. And you just want to be 100% positive on the species because you can put the wrong size band on it. And some species are protected and you're not supposed to band them. So number 1, make sure you know what you're banding. Number 2, find out what band size the bird takes. And you can use this guide called the Pyle Guide, written by Peter Pyle, and this is like the bird banding Bible. It has all the species of mostly songbirds and some other birds, but they have everything you need to know about their band size and migration patterns and sex, how to sex them and how to age them and all sorts of stuff. So this is what we go off of. We actually have a tabular version of this, so basically this book but put into tables so we can easily go through them and figure out what sex or what age a bird is. So this is really helpful. Most sparrows in Santa Cruz that we catch take band size 1B. So we have this nifty little band holder. These are all different size bands. If I were gonna put a 1B on this bird, just pull this little yellow wire and a band will pop up. So these are numbered bands. We have permits for each of these band numbers, and they come in spans of usually 100. So we would make sure to read out the number to whoever's taking data, and then we would open this band using these banding pliers. And these are very similar to normal pliers that you might have, except for their reverse. Instead of squeezing to close them like a normal plier, you have to open them. It's opposite. So you'd put this on this little peg here and open it. I'm not going to open it right now, but you want to open it as evenly as possible, and then you would put it in here. It would hold it open, and then all you would have to do is squeeze it shut. And you want to be really careful when you're doing this, because you can end up over crimping the band on the bird's leg, or just yeah, that's the main thing you have to be worried about, is over crimping. When the band doesn't close perfectly, it can go like this, and then you can squeeze the bird's leg, which is not good. So be very we have to be very careful about opening it evenly and then closing it and making sure that those ends touch. So those are some different sizes that our most common sizes that we use on birds in Santa Cruz. Once the band is on the bird, we can start going through all the different measurements we take. So this is one thing that we use. It's a wing chord measure. So we would use it like this on the bird. We would lift under the wing. I can't do it on this taxidermied bird, but lift under the wing and get it right under the shoulder, and make sure that we're not pressing the wing down. It's a natural arc. And then we would just note where the longest feather hits. Another thing I really quick that I missed talking about was this banding tool. If you're not sure about a band size, or if the Pile Guide gives you a couple that you can choose from, you can always use this on the bird's ankle and see which size fits best. So 1B, this one should fit right here, and it does. And you just you want to try it this way and make sure it's not too tight, it's not rubbing, and not too loose that it could slip down over its ankle and then cause the foot to be closed. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Again, these are the different pliers we have for banding, different sizes for different bands, but some of them have multiple bands that you can use per plier. Sometimes we need to measure either bill width or crown size, stuff like that. So this is electronic calipers, very helpful to have around. So other things that we look at when we're IDing a bird is if they're molting. So when you're looking at the bird, you're looking at different feather tracks. And so you'll use one solid blow, and you'll check its head, you'll check its back, and then you'll check its flanks, its whole, from its cloaca down to its throat. You're blowing, and you're looking for these little feathers that haven't been fully, they haven't expanded yet. They're in this waxy sheath, and that's called a pin feather. So we're looking for any of those. And different birds molt at different times, and sometimes they're just doing a molt in one feather track, or they're doing symmetrical feather tracks, or they're just like molting everything. So it really depends on the time of year and the type of bird. We also look at fat, which is up in its furriculum right here, and that's where we can see fat most easily usually, and it shows up as this yellow, like kind of bulging mass. Sometimes it's really thin, sometimes it's really thick, depends on how much the bird is eating, or if it's about to migrate. Sometimes they build up a lot of fat. Okay, so besides aging, sexing, checking for different things on the body. We also measure the mass of the bird. So most songbirds we can fit in these different size cups, and then we put the bird upside down in the cup and put it on there and weigh it. And the upside down motion kind of chills the bird out and they don't try to get out, but you have to choose the right size cup. If the bird is too big, we'll put it in the bag that we put it in from the net or trap. These are what we use to transport the birds. So you can put it back in the bag and use this spring scale, and you can weigh it that way and tell if it's how heavy it is. So we put thrashers and scrub jays and stuff like that in there that don't fit in these cups. Here's the timer that we use. We set 15-minute timers or 20-minute timers depending on the weather and how many birds we're catching. So if we're catching a ton of birds all the time, we'll shorten that time between runs, and then if it's slow and it's not too cold out, we can extend it to 20 minutes or so. Yeah, really quick, I'm just going to demonstrate how we typically hold the birds. Bander's grip is called Bander's grip. You have your fingers around the bird's neck and your fingers are touching, and then the rest of the bird is resting on your palm. I'm not going to do it too much on this bird. And another one you can do is called photographer's grip, where you're just holding its legs in your fingers, and that's just if you want to get a really good photo of the bird. And we have been taking photos of different species at Younger. We're trying to get a whole catalog of all the birds we have. A couple other tools that are really helpful to have at the banding station. These are really good to have on you when you are going to check nets. A pair of scissors in case the bird is too tangled and you have to cut the net. We'd always rather a net gets cut than the bird being in there for too long and struggling and potentially hurting itself. So always have scissors. And then this is just like a little crochet needle, but it can be really helpful for picking out the net if it's tangled around an arm or wing. It can be easier to use this and to lift it over the bird. And then this is another tool for putting bands on, or actually, well, this tool removes bands. So say you over crimped the band on accident, you can use this. It works in the opposite direction as pliers do. So again, I'm squeezing it to open instead of squeezing to shut. And so you can stick this on the band and hopefully pry it open. We don't have to use these often, which is great because these are emergency tools that we don't want to use, but we have them in case.